Hey, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of SirLinksalot's podcast. We are here with Eric Arnow, who is the oldest person known to be in the world of SEO, or at least
world records,
world
breaker.
record. Yeah, oldest person in affiliate SEO. He's done a lot of interesting stuff. I've had the luxury of speaking with him before, learning a little bit about his story. Spent, I think, something like 40 years as a Buddhist monk. Just really interesting road to what is now he's living in Thailand and on this affiliate journey. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and take it from here. But if you want to just give the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into SEO, a little bit about your life, um,
Sure.
feel free.
Right. Okay. So first of all, um, uh, I'm not bragging as being being the top one of the top over 70 SEOs in the world. All I can say is that um, I've gone to a couple of the Chiang Mai SEO conferences,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure I was the oldest person there. But that doesn't mean that I'm one of the oldest. There's probably other older SEOs who are doing affiliate
You
marketing.
just gotta
So
take the
Yeah,
crown.
yeah.
Take
For
the
for
crown.
now, it's Sir Linksalot world record
I
oldest.
see. All right.
Yeah.
Fair
We'll
enough.
spread the rumor.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. One other item is that uh, in terms of my Zen practice and monk practice, uh, I'll give you a very basic how I got into that,
Sure.
and because that is that's kind of the foundation of my life.
Hmm.
Um, when I was 9 years old, I was watching a television show. This is like 1957,
Okay.
and there's this guy, and I came from a very normal middle class family where people had regular haircuts and they wore ties
Hmm.
and all that stuff. So I'm watching this TV show, and there's this guy with a beard and a beret, and he's smoking this kind of funny looking cigarette, and he's talking about Zen. And I'm thinking, Zen? What's Zen? So that happened, and then 4 years, 5 years went by. I was in junior high school at the time. I walked into a store one day after school, and I saw this book called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. And I thought, there's that word, Zen. So I see this book, and I just think this is really cool stuff because the ideas that they were presenting were like mind expanding experience for people.
Hmm.
Um, they raised issues that really appealed to my sense of like personal freedom. Like my big values are truth and freedom, freedom from conditioning, freedom from lies, all the kinds of things that constrain us nowadays.
Right.
So that was very appealing to me. And then I went to university, and I was studying chemistry in my sophomore year. The Vietnam War was going on, and I was having serious misgivings because I knew what was going on in Vietnam, and I thought, they're training me to make weapons, and I don't want to do that. So I decided to change my major and go into the humanities, and I switched my major to German. Now it turns out that my family uh, all came from the Russian Empire. They were
Hmm.
all Jewish, four grandparents, all Jewish, all basically fleeing the chaos that was going on in that part of the world,
Right.
and it's basically still going on. It's like a replay. It's unbelievable.
Hmm.
So they all came to America, and I've always been kind of haunted by that, what happened during that period of time, pre-World War One, pre-World War Two, a lot of difficulties. So that was like asking me to, what is the meaning of life? Those kinds of deep questions.
Sure.
And then, and I had in my German studies, I was realizing that many of these German philosophers were asking the same kinds of questions. Um, one of the great writers, Goethe. Um, he had a poem, a play called Dr. Faustus.
Yeah.
And the story is that he makes a deal with the devil where the devil will show him all kinds of experiences. And at the end of 24 years, the devil says, "You're mine." And the 24 years go by. He has all these adventures. And the devil says, "Well, now you're mine." And Dr. Faustus says, "No, I'm not, because I'm not attached to those experiences. They're just experiences." And I thought this is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And in parallel, I had been reading about Zen, and these ideas of freeing ourselves from our cultural conditioning and really understanding what is going on in the world was very appealing to me. And I felt that I needed some discipline. I grew up, my father had died when I was 8, so I didn't have male role models, and I felt that I really needed to have some kind of, masculine male training, so to speak.
Sure.
And I didn't want to go into the military, but I thought, well, I'll become a Zen monk.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this.
It's a very opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. And oddly enough, my mother remarried, and her husband had a son who did go into my age. We graduated at the same time. He went into ROTC, and he went into the Special Forces, and I became a monk.
Were y'all close?
We got along reasonably well, but we're not. We live in different worlds. We didn't fight or anything. It just, and he was a decent guy.
Mm-hmm.
But
Me and Nick almost went into the military.
Yeah, we almost did.
We were pretty close.
And then ended up going on a walkabout to Asia.
Yeah, that was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Where we almost made that choice.
Yeah, I'm glad we did.
Much wiser. Very.
We feel the same way. Yeah.
Good for you. So I was living in a Zen community in San Francisco Zen Center. I was ordained after 6 years. I stayed there for another 7 as a monk.
What year was this in?
This is, I started in 1971, and
so right at the end of, or right at the kind of, I'm not well versed in that time period, but maybe kind of towards the end of the hippie movement. So I'm guessing that time at a Zen Buddhist center in San Francisco was probably pretty hopping.
It was. I mean, San Francisco was unbelievable. It was really amazing what was going on there. Mm-hmm. Which is one of the reasons why I went there, because, I felt that it was on the cutting edge of cultural change, which I've always been interested in. So I was there, and then in the early '80s, the Reagan administration came in. There were very, very serious international tensions between the West and primarily Russia, although later on there were problems with China. But the U.S. was putting missiles into Eastern Europe, which could hit Moscow in a few minutes, and it was it was a pretty dangerous time. So our Zen community was involved in the peace movement back then. And at one time, we used to go down to the financial district of San Francisco, and we would hold a silent vigil for nuclear disarmament. And this woman walked by one day and said, "I own stock in Lockheed." And I thought, no, I think we have to deal with our economic system, because people are profiting off of the possibility of our all dying in a nuclear war. I mean, this is crazy. So
we're still here. Maybe the peace vigils work, huh?
Well, yeah, knock on wood, we're still here. So that was 1982, 83. 1984, there was a big, a big upheaval in this Zen community. And I felt that I was being I kind of got as much out of it as I could. In that at a certain point I was feeling constrained, or it became habitual or something like that. So I thought, I think what I need to do is just go out and get a regular job and learn about how money works, because I didn't have any idea of it. And so I went into the insurance and financial business. And the precipitating event for that was I had gone to a meditation retreat, tore the cartilage in my knee. I had no health insurance.
What
And
kind of
so
meditation was it?
this was another, it was called Vipassana, which is it's
Yeah.
Southeast Asian form of
Yeah.
meditation, very similar
I've
to,
done two of those, the 10-day retreats.
right,
It's
maybe
pretty serious
Goenka.
stuff. Yeah, SM,
Yeah,
Goenka.
yeah, yeah. Goenka is a very, um, he does, they do not kid around in those retreats. And
Yeah.
you, as you know, you
It's
go to
not
those
hard.
retreats, you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Those are, I
People
would,
definitely left because they couldn't physically, sit like that for 11 hours a day. So it's not
right,
surprising that you messed up your knee
For
doing it.
for those of you in the
right.
audience that don't know, this is a silent retreat that Chris.
Yeah, it's super hardcore. It's no talking. I don't think you're even really supposed to look at people really in the eyes. No talking, no reading, no writing, no music for 10 days, and you're sitting Indian style,
And you ended
meditating
up
for 11
having
hours a day.
you ended up having to do it for 20 days, right?
Well, I did it one time in Calcutta, in Hong Kong.
Or getting to do
And
it. Rather.
then I wanted to give. I was traveling, so I wanted to give back. I wanted to volunteer at the one in Calcutta in India, but they found out that when I got there, they found out that I had only done one 10-day retreat before. So they're like, "Oh no, you can't work, but you can sit the retreat if you want." And so I just had this flash in my head, like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die here. Like I can't do it. I can't do another 10 days so soon," because it was only a couple weeks after. I wasn't, it's pretty intense. I wasn't ready, but it ended up being awesome. Yeah, fully recommend to anyone looking into taking control of your mind, basically doing some brain push-ups.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, sorry about that. Go ahead.
So,
you messed up your
well,
knee.
I didn't tear it in a retreat. I tore it actually it was kind of a freak accident. So so anyway, there I was in the retreat, and I thought, how am I going to pay for this thing? And I thought, people need insurance. So I decided to go into the insurance business, and knowing absolutely nothing about it. And I, just kind of networked and made contacts with various insurance companies. And so I got into that. And the first company I was with, I won't mention names here, but they were doing pretty, really sleazy stuff, basically screwing their policyholders. So I had to get out of that. And then I found another company and worked with them for a while, and they were the same kind of thing. I did find a decent insurance company. I think it's, reputable. The company is reputable.
Okay.
Some of the agents' practices are not necessarily, totally legitimate, but
Sure.
in the sales business, this is, kind of par for the course. So I stayed in that business. I did switch companies after about 12 years because I felt I could get better deal working with a competitor that was I felt was equally good. But what happened after 10 years in this, I had not practiced actively, and I felt I really needed to get back into practice, because I just thought, just doing business, it's like, this is not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I found another teacher, one teacher, he didn't work out, and then I found another teacher who I felt is very good, and I still have a relationship with that person in Northern California. His name is Nelson Foster, and he's a very straight up, really good guy. And
sorry, what's he teach?
He's a Zen teacher.
Okay. So you went back to Zen. Okay.
Yeah, I went back to Zen. And so I practiced with him for another, let's see, this is 1998. So until 2004. And in 2004, I decided to come to Thailand because um, I, in 2000, we had a quote unquote election, which was, it was rigged basically. And in 2004, I just had this feeling that I was tired of business. I wanted to just get back into spiritual practice. So I came to Thailand, and um, for the next 10 years, I did, um, um, I traveled around Asia, visited Myanmar, Laos, and then in 2007, I went to China because Zen originated in China. And a friend of mine had said, "Hey, let's go to China." So I went there and immediately connected with a Chinese Buddhist monk who turned out to be an incredible person, a fairly famous artist, art historian. He has a very deep understanding of Chinese culture and civilization. And because I had studied Zen and had this, I, when you practice this kind of this kind of practice, it seeps into you. So I felt tremendous affinity with Chinese and Chinese people and Chinese culture. So I
Um,
felt
just to ask you one thing. So during all this time that you're doing, that you're saying you're away from business and you're focusing on your Zen practice.
right.
Um, how are you supporting yourself during this time, or is that something that you don't really have to worry about too much, considering you were kind of like a monk? Was it taken care of by, whatever kind of monastery or whatever you were involved with?
Right. Well, when I lived at the Zen Center, I didn't have to worry about money, and
Okay.
uh, they basically it was like a work study program. You
Hmm.
work and you do whatever is needed,
Gotcha.
and they give you room and board and some spending money.
Okay.
After I then, of course, I did support myself with my business when I left. And I had in the insurance business, you have something called renewals, which means that even if you stop generating business, you still, as long as people pay their
Okay.
premiums, you're
Sure.
still getting some money.
Hmm.
So, so I was getting some money every month, but of course, over the course of time, that amount of money was dropping because people would, they choose another company or whatever, and
Right.
so so everything was going okay for a while, but I could see my income was going down. And I'm thinking, I think I better, start taking care of the material end
Back
of
to the
things.
grind.
Right. I did qualify for a pension in U.S. law, at least at the time. I could get my Social Security earlier than the usual 66 years, so I started collecting it 4 years early, and that
Okay.
kind of tided me over. And I've been living on that basically.
Gotcha.
So, uh, so I continued doing that until 2014, and then this is where a big transition occurred. I injured my knee a second time, and I realized, Eric, okay, you've had your fun. You've been practicing, very diligently for 10 years, but I think you need to get back to work. And and I had this knee injury.
Hmm.
So I thought, how can I integrate my own personal experience with the business? And I found a knee brace on Alibaba, and I started marketing that in on Amazon.
Hmm.
And that was how I got back into business. Um, the product did extremely well at the beginning, and then competition came in and really devastated it. So I thought, I think I need to branch out. I need to get like a supporting website.
How did you
So
even find out to
That
do
I,
that?
I
Like, how
wanted
did
to.
that?
It's
How did
like,
you have that idea to take the Alibaba product and to sell it on Amazon?
yeah.
Like, how did you? Yeah, how did you get that
Because
idea?
it's like I'll speak to my father even, and it's like he couldn't fathom creating a business like that. Like the idea doesn't resonate with him, right?
Or
So
even before
Yeah,
I
me
really
either.
was introduced to SEO by Nick, I would never have had that idea. It just wouldn't have crossed my mind.
Well, just do do Zen meditation
They're
for many
teaching you
years.
business and Zen, huh?
Really.
Teaching you how to make a
Actually,
buck.
I'll tell you, there were some the Zen center that I stayed at. There were some. It attracted a lot of very, very talented people,
Sure.
very smart people, and one of them was this guy who he was a friend of mine, and he opened up a little corner grocery store across the street from the center. It was immediate success. And then during that same transition period when we both left, he opened up this restaurant. He's probably, I'm sure he's a millionaire right now. He opened a very high-end restaurant in San Francisco. And
Expensive.
so there are people like him, not everybody, a lot of people, were not business oriented, but there were some people like that. And I'm kind of like, um, um, I'm somewhat entrepreneurial. I'm certainly not a business genius the way he was, the way he is. Um, but I have this kind of sense of being financially independent. I don't like bosses. I don't like being told what to do. I'm kind of like mentally retarded. I can't even,
Feel
when
the
somebody
same.
tells me to do something, I just think, how can I get out of doing this? If I had been drafted into the military, they probably would, they would have made a big mistake.
Kick him out.
Wonder how long you would have lasted.
Just like when
Right.
Jimi Hendrix was in.
Yeah,
Right,
just a,
yeah,
a rebel
exactly.
to the core.
Yeah.
Right, right. Um, so anyway, I had this idea of being on my own, being a business person, but at the same time, how can I help? How can I help people? Um, I don't want to just go in there and make mega bucks at the expense of other people, because I feel when you practice meditation, the concept of me breaks down. You realize that you're much bigger than our little self, and that we are the product of our family, our culture. Um, so to think that it's all about me is simply erroneous.
Right.
And for and what you think, how do I say this? If you think selfish thoughts, in the end, it ends up hurting you. You end up hurting other people, and you end up hurting yourself. So for me, it's always been, we're in this together. How can I help? My customers are helping me with their money. I'm helping them by solving their problem, by taking away their pain. And that's how I like to think about what business should be.
Yeah, I'm not very well versed on business literature, but so I can't even really quote what I'm trying to say. But that's one of the tenets of a successful business is when you genuinely put the customer first.
Yeah, there's reciprocity.
It's not about making money. It's like what are we doing to help these people? And once
Right.
that becomes the primary focus, everything else kind of falls into place.
Right, exactly. And in modern business culture, that idea has been de-emphasized. The purpose of a corporation is to make money for its shareholders.
Sure.
That is the dominant ideology, and it's unfortunate, and we need to change that. So anyway, so I got into I decided I should start a website, and one other thing is that I don't remember how it happened, but I found out there was some kind of course that you could take to learn about how to do business on Amazon.
Okay.
and it was a very expensive course, about $3,600.
Right.
But it was very comprehensive, and I learned the basics of how to get an Amazon business going.
Do you remember the
So
name of the course or who taught it?
um, um, it's Amazing Selling Machine,
Okay.
and it's gone through various iterations. I was in class 4. I think they're up to class 10 now,
Okay.
and uh, I wouldn't recommend it actually at this point,
In
because
hindsight.
it, well, at the time it worked, but things change,
Sure.
and the whole business model around Amazon is, um, I think it's very difficult for people to succeed in it. Most people, I think, have quite a lot of difficulty. Some people are are extremely successful, and there's a lot of people who just can't do it. And I've met people who are successful business people who said they couldn't make it on Amazon.
Hmm.
So it's a mixed bag.
Sure.
Um, at a certain point, I realized that being dependent on Amazon was just, it was too risky,
Mm.
um, and that in investing in a product that you have to resell, and you have to package it, you have to do all kinds of things to make it work. You're in deep competition, not just with all the other Amazon sellers who are basically stealing your ideas. I have people selling a product that looks like mine. It was a generic form of what I created, and they have my pictures on their Amazon listing.
No
Me.
shame.
Internet.
It's like unbelievable. I'm demonstrating my product, and they're using my picture on their listing.
Right.
It's crazy.
Did you go after them? Is there something
Yeah,
you
is
could
there a
I
do?
sent them
protection?
I sent them a letter. They're not making the sales that I am, and um, I'm not doing fantastically, but I'm making a little bit of money. And as I'll say, or I'll tell you in a little bit, I think there's a good possibility that I can really pull this off.
Hmm.
Um, so I basically what happened was I decided that I needed to build a website, and I was really intimidated by SEO. I took this course called OMG,
Right.
which was a very expensive
That's
course.
where I got my start.
You did, okay.
Hmm.
And I'm not a techie, and I'm an old dog. It's not easy for me to learn new tricks, and it was really beyond me. And I took a succession of other courses. None of them really worked. I tried different Amazon courses, to other courses, spent a lot of money on this stuff. And
Yeah, it sounds like you racked up quite the bill with all these courses, knowing how much they cost. I mean, we're talking $2,000 to $3,000 per course typically for
absolutely,
those kinds of things. So.
that's right. Right. It was pretty nasty.
But so you
Um,
were very targeted on what the endeavor, and you believed in this business model working for you.
yeah, that's right. There were other, like people could do drop shipping or other
Hmm.
kinds of things. Just thought I started with Amazon. I could see its limitations quite early on, but I was willing to work with those. I didn't want to. Basically, I had a product which I believed in. I got letters from people. I got a letter from a Vietnam veteran,
Hmm.
and he said, "Eric, I used to be a paratrooper, and I blew out my knees jumping out of helicopters. You, on the other hand, were climbing mountains, and you were doing the Zen thing, and so we both have bad knees, but that's what we have in common.
Hmm.
And your product is really great. It's like the best product I've used. These are
Uh-huh.
his words.
Hmm.
And I got so many letters from people saying, this is a great product. Don't give up on it. So I felt, okay, I'll just keep going. I'll do whatever it takes to make it work.
That's so
So,
interesting, especially in comparison to a lot of people we talk to in marketing, or especially SEO, where it's like
mm,
I feel like a lot of people are just completely detached from the products that they're selling, especially as their first businesses. It's more so, what niche can I access? How can I get involved?
How much money can I make?
Exactly, yeah. And here we've got, I think, a very unique perspective in this world of SEO, Yeah, it's really interesting.
Mm. Well, at this point, if I do bring I think the strategy that I'm going to use, and I hope maybe I'm giving away the story here, um, but I think the strategy that I'm starting to use will work with Amazon, and I'll see what happens. If it does work, then I would consider doing introducing other kinds of
Hmm.
products. I'd be willing to entertain it because I feel like if I can crack the code of how to actually rank a product on Amazon and
Hmm.
sell it, in decent amounts, then maybe I would continue with it. But I'll have to see how that goes.
Sure, but I'm sure you'll always have some sort of like personal attachment to the products themselves, or personal
Yeah,
belief in the product, right?
right, right. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, people have tried to get me to sell all kinds of stuff, and I just don't want to do it.
Yeah,
In
I don't
fact,
imagine you would. Yeah,
right.
that's cool.
I just um, part of SEO is part of internet marketing is Facebook.
Hmm.
So I took this Facebook ad course, and I realized immediately after getting into it, um, this guy is he's doing stuff that could get you banned on Facebook, and I just thought, what? How did I? Why didn't I get in the ads that they use on Facebook are clickbait ads, and the products that they sell are shitty,
Yeah.
and why even it was a mistake. That was a mistake. I just have to write that off. So it's always best if you think of how can I help the other person and stay true to myself and to stay true,
Hmm.
that if a product is if it proves that it can help people, then you know, it's worth promoting. If it's
Hmm.
not, forget it. It's just not worth it. I think we actually do psychological damage to ourselves when we do things that we're only in it for the money and end up
Sure.
hurting people at their expense and making money at their expense. That's
I,
how
I
I feel about it.
I love how everything, from this conversation, it's you've taken a broad perspective to what is going on in the world and then tied it into everything, literally everything that you do, from what it sounds like. Um,
Right,
and the biggest picture being this interconnectivity and this need to, propel propel everything forward rather than just yourself. I think that's really neat,
right.
and it's a fresh perspective in
So,
this world.
so are you? I know you said you didn't want to sell the other products that people kind of brought to your attention, but is this still the only product that you're really pushing? Is this
Yeah,
your main?
this is the only product that I'm pushing. Interestingly enough, um, while I was in China, I spent a lot of time in China, and I made a lot of friends there. And one of the women friends that I made friends with um, is a like a professor of advertising,
Mm-hmm.
and she's a good person. It's like advertising, but she's a good person, and she's married to this guy, and they have some company, and she's a brand manager for some companies, and I know she's the kind of person who would not promote a product that she doesn't believe in.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I'm thinking, I could do a partnership with
Sure.
her. She could hook me up with some good companies that have products that are worth promoting,
Right.
and then I could do that. I'd
Mm-hmm.
feel okay about that.
Yeah.
And there are certainly new technology kinds of products or household products, various things that can be very helpful for people. And if I can make some money at it and people makes their life easier, then sure, why not?
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Are you in China right now?
No, I'm in Thailand.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
I'm in
Um,
Chiang Mai.
How?
Right.
going back to China real quick, because you kind of spoke about it earlier, but you said you met somebody who was into Zen, was I think you said famous artist. We're not talking like Ai Weiwei here, are we?
Not talking about what?
Ai Weiwei, he's a real famous Chinese
No,
artist. I was like, that'd be amazing. Sorry, huge
no,
fan.
yeah, no. This guy is his name is Miao Guang Fasher.
Okay.
Miao Guang is his name. Fasher is his title.
Okay.
Fasher means a a teacher, a teacher of Dharma, so to
Okay.
speak. For your listeners, Dharma is the teaching, which you see both in Indian practice as well as Buddhism. Dharma means truth or the way or the method or how things are,
Hmm.
and so in that is the it's not a belief, it's a practice.
Right.
So anyway, this guy was a extremely knowledgeable person, and we hit it off immediately. And the story of that is incredible. I was walking on the street in a Himalayan um, hill town. What do they call it? The foothills of the Himalayas.
Hmm.
Very a tourist town in China. I see this guy. He looks like a monk. He's got a shaved head. He's got funny looking clothes, and um, and some guy approaches me and he says, "Can I help you?" He's Chinese. He speaks in English. I said, "Yeah, is that guy a monk?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Can I talk with him?" So he said, "Sure." So we met and we talked for 8 hours straight,
Wow.
um, from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 9. I finally said, "Hey, I think it's getting really late now." And they invited me to go on a trip with them to this famous mountain in China. And when I went there,
Which mountain?
the first um, Jizushan,
Okay.
it's in Yunnan province,
All right.
southwest China. And the first thing I go and I see when I reach this mountain is a statue of the most famous Chinese monk of the 19th and 20th century, um, named Xu Yun. Xu Yun was born in 1840 and he died in 1959. So he lived to be 120
Wow.
years old. Um, China went through two, not one, but two Holocausts.
Hmm.
Hmm.
They lost 20 million or 50 million, uncountable number of people in the mid 19th century because of the Opium Wars and rebellions and so on. And then in the 20th century, the Japan, and then of course the Western countries came in and demanded concessions. They demanded Hong Kong, Macau, Xiamen, other cities, Shanghai, and they said we're going to take over and we're going to just take over these cities and we're going to import a bunch of opium into your country and you're going to sell it. You're going to allow us to sell it to your people so we can make a ton of money. And so China basically fell apart for the better part of over a century.
Hmm.
And it was not until 1949 when they finally kicked all these people out. So that's the backstory of this guy Shuyan.
Hmm.
And so I had read Shuyin's biography 30 years earlier. So it's like running into this old friend, this person that you have tremendous respect for, and you say, "Oh, so here's the temple that he founded. How cool is that?" So I
That's
don't
awesome.
know if your listeners can appreciate this, but that I'm
I'm
kind of
sure, yeah. I mean, if nothing else, we sure do. I'm sure. I got to go out to Mount Huashan and climb there, and
hmm
that was quite an experience. Especially within the same, I think it was like within the same 15 hours or something. You can wake up on one side of the mountain, walk to the other side, watch the sun go down, and then rise. Or moon go down, sunrise. It's
right,
pretty awesome.
right. Um,
Yeah, I was in China as well for
Yeah, he just
about a
got back.
year, and yeah, I mean we're even while I was there, of course I was aware of the past colonialism, but it never, for some reason, I guess I just never looked into it too much, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But the idea that we colonized to push opium is
Yeah, that's new.
really
Yeah,
hardcore stuff.
very.
right.
That's something I think that's kind of lost in a way. Normally, when people talk about the hardships of China, they talk about Mao's
Cultural
Great Leap
Revolution,
Forward and the lives that were lost there. They don't really,
Yeah, the story
talk
always
about
goes deeper.
the bit before that.
Right.
Right.
Pushed
Yeah,
it.
I think the one of the biggest problems that we in the West and in the United States in particular have is that we have no historical context.
Hmm.
It's just we see things in the present situation. They don't know how things arose or any of that.
Right.
So they don't have any. They can't appreciate. They can't put themselves in the other person's shoes.
Hmm.
It's part of what I was talking about earlier. Um, there's a separation. It's us versus them,
Correct.
and they don't realize, oh, actually, we're bound together in ways that we really need to understand and appreciate.
Hmm.
So now getting back to the monk Guangfa, we spent some time together. We went up, we climbed to the top of this mountain, and then he says to me, Eric, you know so much about Zen, and a lot of that has been lost in China. So you should come back to Xiamen, our home city, and study Chinese, and then you can hang out with people, and they'll really, appreciate you.
Hmm.
So I said, well, maybe I should do that. I was planning to stay in this part of China, but maybe I'll take a side trip to this place, Xiamen. So the next day they say, well, we've changed our plans. We were going to go to Shanghai, but we've decided we're going to take you to Xiamen. And so they booked 3 first-class train fares, and we took a 3-day train ride from Yunnan. It's like a 2,000-mile train trip from southwest China to southeast China. And I spent a month at his friend's house. Xiao Zhenjie was the friend of Miao Guangfa, and we developed this long relationship. And at one point, I did some translation for Miao Guangfa, and we were creating kind of like a little booklet. And I said, "What do we call this? A chance meeting results in a friendship?" He says, "No, 1,000-year appointment made 1,000 years ago, finally kept." He says, "You and I were brother monks at this famous Zen master's monastery, and we finally met again."
Really?
Yeah, I mean, is that cool
That's
or
awesome.
what?
Yeah, it's very cool.
So you can tell that China was a completely transformative experience for me. I
So
learned
why'd you end up leaving China?
um, um, it's not easy to live in China.
I
It was
agree.
first of all, I would have had to get a full-time job in order to support myself, which is kind of against my nature. And then I had injured myself, so I could have gotten medical care, I suppose, in China, but it was, it's it's I think more difficult to live in than Thailand is. The visas in Thailand are much easier than they are in China, so it was a kind of a practical decision. And then, from a cultural and personal standpoint, I have a great affinity with China and Chinese people. And from a practical standpoint, Thailand is a very comfortable country. The people are just really nice. They're very polite. They're very friendly, and it's not so difficult to live here, and it's not expensive. So
So
basically,
financially, compared to where you were at in China, Thailand is easier to get by.
right.
I was in Shanghai, and of course, Shanghai is not a cheap
You're very
place.
expensive. You're very expensive.
um, you said you were in Xiamen?
Xiamen, right,
Xiamen.
which is about 400 miles north of Hong Kong.
Okay.
Okay, and the name is very familiar. I'm not sure how I know the name, but is it a bigger city or is it a smaller place or what?
It's about, I think it's about 5 million people. So it's, by Chinese standards,
Tiny
it's,
city.
yeah,
For the U.S., it's huge.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very attractive city. It's on the coast. They've got a beautiful university there with an incredible campus, and there's a lot of culture, Chinese culture there, and so it's a very, it's a very one of the nicest cities to live in China,
Hmm.
which is the reason why why Me Wanfasher, my friend, lived there.
Okay. And so when you decided to make the move to Thailand, I know you had said you had found the product that you were selling on Alibaba. Um, or was it Alibaba?
Yeah,
Alibaba.
Right. Yeah. Let me.
selling on Amazon.
Yeah.
And so I get.
Yeah. What happened was, so this is 2014. I had been doing another meditation retreat. I felt a kind of a twinge in my knee. Um, the retreat ended. My knee was hurting, kind of. I went to do a yoga class with a very intense yoga teacher. My knee was really hurting after that.
Hmm.
And when I got back to Chiang Mai, I thought, I think I better get an MRI. And when I got the MRI, they said, "Yep, your knee's screwed up." So I found an orthopedic surgeon trained in the United States who did the operation for me, and it cost probably like a tenth of what it would cost in the United States.
Hmm.
And so you ended up in Chiang Mai, which is kind of like the center of the SEO community
Right?
by
No,
by chance or
no. What happened? Chiang Mai is it's I think of it as like a town on the edge of the empire. If you think of in the Star Wars, there's this sort of city state that's pretty far away from everything, and it's got a lot of strange looking creatures that you'll find in the forest.
so that's Chiang Mai, huh?
That's
Sounds cool.
Chiang Mai, right? That's Chiang Mai. It's part of the empire, but it's far enough away that it attracts seekers and scoundrels and ne'er do
Sure.
wells and saints and all kinds of people. And they have meditation centers, and the food is good, and the housing is cheap, and so on and so forth. So I was living in, I basically had a home base in Chiang Mai since 2006.
Hmm.
I had been renting a place and finally bought it in 2006. In 2014, I guess, actually, I bought it.
Okay.
Um, so, so I was just living here, just doing, just living. And then I took this course on Amazon. I was, working, trying to develop my business on Amazon. And then I realized, oh, I guess there's some people around here who know something about websites. Uh,
Cool. What a
right.
coincidence.
So, right. So somehow I found about this, Chiang Mai SEO community and showed up at this coffee shop where they would hang out on Thursdays. And I met some guy named Matt Diggity who seemed
Yeah.
like a pretty nice guy.
Hmm.
And so I was struggling along with my website, and I had several people work on it, and they all screwed it up. And then I bought this SEO course from these people, and um, I guess they were like one of the people associated with OMG,
Oh,
Network
okay.
Empire. They were like Network Empire, and then they split off, and they were
Sounds familiar.
charging $500 a month for this SEO course, and my site totally crashed. They started doing well, and then it completely crashed, and I just thought, oh God, no, what am I going to do now?
Hmm.
So then I met Matt, and one day I was in the coffee shop, and Matt says, "Hey, Eric, why don't you come over here and let me take a look at your website?"
Hmm.
And of course, you know what happens when Matt looks at your website.
You make $1 million.
Yeah.
Now this guy, I'm doing shameless plugs for Matt here.
No, well, I was about to say, and for those of you that don't know, Matt Diggity is a very famous SEO. He's got a course called The Lab. It's great, and runs uh, what's his affiliate or guest posting?
Affiliate Lab,
Yeah, Affiliate Lab. There we go. And
and he's got
get
several other companies, Lead Spring and
yeah, there we
some
go.
other companies.
Yeah, but
So
great guy.
so here's this guy, famous SEO, with this, 70-year-old slob who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I said, hey, let me take a look at your website. And he says, oh, you got to fix this and this and this and this and this. And I think, oh, geez, I don't, okay, I'll try and figure this out.
Hmm.
And then at a certain point, I did fix some of the stuff. There was a lot of duplicate content because
Okay.
I had my site structure. I had categories and archives and all that. It was all,
Hmm.
duplicate. So I fixed that, but the site was still dead in the water. And um, and then at some point, I had heard that he was doing a $200 off, promotion. So I thought, hey, man, you know, I had hired another SEO company to do on page for me, and they weren't doing the work, and it was not working, and they're taking my money, and it's all bullshit. And I'm thinking, I'll take Matt's course
Hmm.
and give it a try. And as I was going through it, I realized, oh, so that's what I'm supposed to do.
Hmm.
I've got to do meta tags. I've got to do title, meta descriptions. I got to do title tags. And so I started going through I went through my entire website myself and fixed a lot of these things and rewrote the content. And lo
So,
and behold,
sorry, previously, were you kind of just outsourcing that work?
Yeah, I said it.
I was
Okay,
outsourcing
Just
it
went
out of,
completely.
really well.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, I was hiring every single SEO company that
Hmm.
said, we'll do on page for you, we'll do all this stuff for you.
Where were you
None.
finding them?
Some of them I met at the conference, and some of them
Okay.
I were kind of fairly well known.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like SEO is one of those things where, like, Stephen Floyd, you got to be able to inspect what you expect. And especially with on page, I remember that being a sore point of struggle for me early on.
mhm.
Because, without the study, you'd give it off to somebody, and when you get it back, you're going, well, I think it's maybe okay. But, then it's all dependent
Right,
on what it resonates in the SERPs.
right,
So,
right,
so you made the on-page changes yourself
right,
after
and
watching the course.
right. After watching after doing his, I'm not even through his course yet, but I did a lot of the on-page stuff. So, and what was really interesting, guys, was that having hired these companies to do my on page for me, for like 10 out of, I had about 40 posts. My
Hmm.
site wasn't ranking at all. Was dead. And I hired these people, and I say, what's going on with my website? What's going on with, well, they give me some excuse. And when I went in and looked at it on the basis of what Matt was teaching, I realized not one of these guys had done title tags or meta descriptions or schema,
Oof.
those
What were
So what
they
are
basic.
they
doing?
doing? Yeah.
I mean, that's like the
Yeah, they were
bedrock
doing
of
nothing.
on-page.
Nothing. Just taking money and saying, well, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the basic stuff. If you don't have a
Right.
meta description, if you don't have a title tag, you know, that's like the basic.
What the hell are you doing? Yeah, like it's. I mean,
And
that's
I've
at that point it's a pure
paying these people
scam.
$500 or $1,000 a month.
Wow.
So what happened then was, after about a year of being like a flatline, brain dead website, all of a sudden there was a little jump,
Hmm.
and I actually got a couple of sales from my Amazon affiliate, you know, my Amazon affiliate links,
Hmm.
and then I hired Affiliate Lab, which is his link building, business,
Hmm.
and I saw this big spike, relatively speaking, big spike, and since then, um, it's not like huge amounts of money, but I'm making $150 a month, something like that,
It's a
which after
win. Yeah.
nothing, after zero,
Yeah.
for years, it's huge.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's basically how my SEO journey has gone.
Hmm.
Now, I want to just bring up one other item, which is that Charles Float had a company, as you probably know, and he
Mhm.
wasn't able to sustain it. It sounds like he kind of bit off more than he can chew, and I have no Charles is a good guy. I don't want to cast any aspersions or anything, um, but he wasn't able to do what he said he would do.
Mhm.
But one of the strategies that he recommended was something that you can use to rank on Amazon, and that is called a parasite
Parasite
SEO.
SEO. Mhm.
Yeah, I had never heard of parasite SEO, and so this is another example of how I'll give a kind of a shout out. Um, so I was in at one of our meetups, with our Chiang Mai SEO group, and somehow the subject of ranking an Amazon listing came up, and this guy from Israel named Yuval
Mhm.
said, "Oh yeah, well, what you can do is you can send PBN links to this website, and I know a company that'll do it." So I thought, okay, well, that sounds like it's worth trying. So this was Arch SEO, and I made an order for it, and then the owner of the company contacts me because he knew me because he had been to Chiang Mai as well,
Okay.
and he's from Singapore, and I had bought another crummy course, and I said, do you know this guy from Singapore, Pat something? He said, oh, just drop that course. It's terrible, terrible, and I could tell that course wasn't very good. So,
Mhm.
with his encouragement, I dropped it, and so he's been kind of a guardian angel for me as
Okay.
well. And so I submitted my order, and he contacted me. He said, Eric, no, no, this is what you got to do. And he explained to me, how to create anchor text for this kind of order.
Sure.
And so he went out of his way, to help me.
Mhm.
And he said, Eric, I don't normally do this, but because I know you and I want to help you out. Um, so there was, it's a great feeling
Mhm.
when you have people who, it's not like we're in a way we're competing with each other, but in a way there's a lot of support here, and
It's
you guys are,
yeah.
you guys are part of that, by giving me a chance to tell my story in a way that maybe can inspire other people to think about their lives and how they can, improve their own lives on a
Sure.
deeper level.
Mhm.
And so this whole idea of helping people, there's no money involved. He just said, Eric, this is what you really need to do in order to make things better for yourself. Matt says, oh, Eric, let me take a look at your website. It's
Mhm.
like along the way, there are these little guardian angels who come in and have helped me out. And it's a really wonderful feeling.
That's a good thing to have. You've been telling your story, and I got this course, I got this course, and then these people didn't know what they were doing, and this person, said this person said this. There's just, I feel like a lot of people, um, especially people that maybe aren't in Chiang Mai or don't have any kind of SEO people around them, they get lost in this basically sea of information, and they have no way to validate
Mhm.
anything.
Exactly. Right, right. Um, yeah, it's really been extremely helpful. It would have been impossible for me to get anywhere near where I am now without being in a community. Um, Even in terms of my Amazon product, my Amazon product, I brought that product to market in 2015. Within 3 months, I was selling $10,000 worth a month,
Wow.
which is great.
Mhm.
Um, and then competitors came in, and my sales eventually fell to $1,000 a month, which is pretty
It's
discouraging.
wild. Yeah.
So I found some Facebook groups and some Chiang Mai, um, Amazon FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. So
Mhm.
that's the business model where you store your stuff at Amazon warehouses and then they ship it uh, for you, taking their cut. So I went to a couple of meetups with these people, and they said, "Oh, what you need to do, you need to repackage your product." Well, I just had it in a very simple plastic bag. I just thought, all this packaging, who needs it? It's all
Right.
just creates more garbage. They say, "Well, Eric, you're really going to have to make that concession." So I did that, and I found a real graphic designer um, who has done great work for me since then. He lives in Chiang Mai, and um, and I got some other ideas so that now my product it's not up to the 10,000 a month, but it's trending upwards. It's I'm up to about 4,000 a month, which is profitable at this point. I'm actually making some profit from it.
That's great.
And that would not have happened if I had not been in Chiang Mai, hanging out with people who have had experience and were able to help out.
So what would your advice be to maybe people who are listening to this, who are not in Chiang Mai, who are, they're struggling to put together their first $150 a month
Um,
from a site like you were at one point?
right. Well, I would say, speaking just of affiliate marketing, I would say take Matt's course.
Sure.
It's an excellent course, and get into his Facebook group, because if you have questions, you can always ask them, and people will help you out. Um, Not every answer will be, what you want, but um, Facebook groups are a pretty good substitute for being actually, physically in the same place.
Are you in our Facebook group?
I'm not sure. What is it?
It's
Well, you better be after
SEO
this.
roundtable.
Yeah.
SEO table.
No, but
Okay.
Matt's group is great.
is
It's definitely
amazing,
one of
yeah.
the good ones. We've got one going now as well, SEO Roundtable.
SEO round.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
I'll
don't
remember.
have the numbers of Matt's group, but me and Nick are in there every day,
Yeah.
trying to help people as much as we can, and trying to facilitate the community where other people can help them as well.
Right. I think that's something too. This is a fairly new industry, right? As far as its popularity and growth, we're talking the last 10 years. It's exponentially grown, and so we keep seeing newer and newer faces. But I think just like for you, it happened to me, probably Chris as well. As we're learning, we go through all these different ups and downs of almost hitting a win. Then you get sucked out by buying the wrong thing, listening to the wrong advice, and there's so much of that out there that I
Right.
think it provides a lot of opportunity for people that want to educate based on what they've actually been able to test and then supply these communities. And I think guys like Matt Diggity, Stephen King, people that have these massive communities that are putting out free information. I think that's really interesting, and I think it's great because it's providing avenues for people to kind of exist on the plane that you were talking about earlier, which is the one I want to live on, where I don't have a boss. I do kind of make my own path through this business venture, so to speak, but it definitely was not easy to come up in, so I feel
Right.
that for sure.
Right. I would say, for people who are, uh, fairly new or having a lot of challenges, finding a good course that gives you some structure. There are a lot of courses that are not structured very well. I think Authority Hacker is another course which I own, and I haven't really used it as much as Affiliate Lab, but I think that's also a good course. Um, so I would say, you know, take one of those good courses that I just mentioned. I can specifically speak of Matt's. Um, find a couple of Facebook groups that can be useful. I belong to more than one, and often I'll put my question out into several groups and see what comes back. See if you can, my guess is that most people live in somewhat larger cities, you know, New York or Austin, Texas, or Boston, or
Hmm.
some cities like that generally, and see if you can find other people that you can hook up with and hang out with, because um, they may not have world-class SEOs, but at least they have people who can give you some moral support, and moral
Yeah,
support is very helpful too. And
Sure.
just share, trading ideas back and forth, it can only help you.
Right.
sure.
So,
Someone to bounce ideas off of.
Hmm.
right,
Someone that might take a little bit more interest in your problems than, I don't know, just random people and groups on the internet.
Yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you just as I say, I've taken courses with people, and um, they just didn't resonate with me. And I think I hear that that's the case with a lot of people. Um, there's a lot of courses that just don't seem to work, um,
Hmm.
The
and they
course
can have
market is real. They're all sitting
Yeah.
there waiting to grab people looking for a lifeline, right?
Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly. Um, I just saw the Federal Trade Commission has a complaint website, and one of the things that um, there are two items that they specifically talk about. There's like six different things that they talk about as being problematic. One of them is health supplements, and the other is um, work at home
Hmm.
Mm,
schemes.
yeah.
So there's a lot of predators out there.
Yeah.
So people have to be careful. I would say one thing: if you think you're gonna take a course, if you're thinking of taking a course, if it doesn't have some kind of guarantee, like a 30-day or a 60-day guarantee that if you don't want it, you can, you can get your money back,
Hmm.
don't take the course,
Sure.
because you can get into it and then you can find out you just got yourself into quicksand
Hmm.
and just lost a bunch of money.
Bye bye
Yeah, I
money.
remember doing that several times where it's like you open the course, you open up a few videos, you fast forward through different things, and you just realize automatically, oh,
Your
damn
heart
it, like
sinks.
you got me again.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's funny in hindsight, but I remember those days as being so nerve wracking and just wanting to pull my hair out basically because you know the the people that these courses prey on are the ones that are looking for the lifeline, and usually you're not making great money, and usually you're trying
Yeah. At that point,
to
it
get
just
a
seems
leg
like an
up.
illusion.
Yeah, yeah.
SEO is an
You're
illusion.
lying to
Making
me.
money online is an illusion.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
courses are all an illusion. None of it's real. And then
Oh.
it just clicks one day like it did with you. You make some
Mhm.
on-page changes, and oh my God,
Wow.
I made a few bucks.
Mhm.
Right,
Progress,
right,
right?
right. And I can see, it's like I can see, oh, so this is how I can go forward.
Mhm.
And I found a couple of partners, Affiliate Lab. They're basically doing some of my anchor text for me when they
Mhm.
place links. And it's not cheap, it's like $500 a month, which
Mhm.
for it's a fair amount of money. And I just hired Alpha Investors, and they built a website for me, which is they did very good work, and I'm asking them to do content writing for me, and
Okay.
they're very straight up kind of people.
So it seems like
So
you pretty much outsource everything. You outsource your link building, you outsource the website, you outsource on page at one point, but now maybe you're doing it yourself. Um,
I'm yeah, I'm doing a fair amount of my on page and some content writing also,
Okay.
um, because I feel those are the things that I have the most control over. In
mhm.
terms of link building, outreach and things like that, I've tried those. It hasn't really worked for me,
Mhm.
to be honest with you. So,
Yeah, it's its own beast.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and basically, see, my Amazon product is fueling my affiliate business at this point. the profits that I'm making for Amazon are going to pay for these other services.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So basically my goal is to build up my Amazon business in conjunction with my affiliate website to the point where it's making, 5 figures a month profit, and at that point, I would probably sell it, and uh, and that would give me, enough cash that I could then use that money to develop other sites.
Sure.
Because there's other niches, one of the niches that I would really like to develop would be the green, green niche, green energy, sustainability type of thing.
Again, something that you are interested in yourself that you think is beneficial to people.
Right, right, exactly. Um,
That's
so,
a pretty different way of niche selection than a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
people
awesome.
than a lot of people use, but it's will definitely make you sleep better at night.
Yeah.
well, I hope so. There's one thing that we've been on the line for a while, and there's just one thing that I wanted to bring up, and that is this is probably kind of controversial. Maybe you can, if you post it, you can edit it out. But
Nope.
we're but we're living in an age of fake news, and
Yes.
um, there's a we're facing a lot of challenges with disinformation of all kinds, and
Absolutely. We were just talking about this right before we
Right
went on
before
air,
we got
actually.
on, yeah.
interesting. And one of the things that I'm really, really concerned about is the fact that um, websites are actually getting banned or um, or demonetized. There's YouTube channels that are being demonetized because they're saying things that are not, in line with what the powers that be want to be
Yeah,
said.
Mm-hmm.
this is new stuff. Yeah.
Google is, like I have, there's websites that I go to, and I've seen their traffic, fall dramatically because they're basically taking anti-war positions, things like that. These are not, we're not talking about, you know, you know, violent, advocates of violence or anything like that. It's just they're questioning, what is going on in the society, and they're getting monetized, and so um, and Google is part of that. So as SEOs, I hope that we can, um, we're basically in a um, it's like a love-hate relationship with Google. We need them, and yet at the same time, are they our allies or are they adversaries?
Right.
It's you know pretty hard to
I
say.
take the more
Interesting.
adversarial approach.
Yeah, I like the idea of being a rebel, so I take that. But at the same time, it's like if you're honest and rational about it, yes, we have a very symbiotic relationship that.
But yeah, we also have
we
a
go through.
unique relationship in the way that, we have our fingers on the pulse of this beast,
Correct. Yeah.
And so we are the people that are, maybe that you could say, understand it the most, or at least we should.
Right,
It's like a
Um,
right,
digital awakening.
So maybe we even have a responsibility as almost like a watchdog in this scenario to, I don't know, make people aware of exactly what's happening. Because I don't think
right,
this is
exactly.
something that's talked about enough in, mainstream media outlets.
Yeah, especially with this last U.S. election, but not only this one, but we talk about like using WhatsApp to market to people for the Brazilian elections.
Hmm.
I think that happened in Indian elections. So it's like all over the world we're seeing this digital manipulation happening, and I feel like it's very hard for somebody that's on the outskirts of this internet, not even just internet culture, but what would you say we are like?
Community?
Yeah,
Internet
internet. Yeah, this community, the SEO community, or just like the data manipulation community in general, and you kind of see how easy it is for this to be mass produced and used for pretty nefarious practices. And honestly, it's not only disheartening but pretty scary
Right,
when you feel very awakened, but then you speak to your peers and you realize nobody really understands how this information is being used or used against them. It's a scary
Right,
thought.
exactly.
Yeah, I've said for a while that I think people kind of brush it off, but I think in our lifetimes, you know, if Google goes off the rails, which it kind of seems like they're inching that way, once they stop taking people's best interests at the heart of their, you know, their ethos or whatever, they're going to be the biggest boogeyman of our lifetime.
Yeah.
Especially if, you know, once the government gets their fingers in there and they decide what can be said and what can not be said, and tying that to, you know, your financial well-being, and it starts to get pretty scary.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, I'm really glad that we're on exactly the same page, and I really appreciate the fact that you understand this issue, and I hope that what I see is that we're in a struggle here to, you know, become successful in business, and we have to take care of ourselves. There's no question about that. And so if we can include the idea of our being part of a larger community, which we're not just SEOs, we're part of this whole, you know, a whole country, a whole planet that's in crisis. And if we can use our skills to create, you know, more mass consciousness, then that would be a really great thing. We SEOs have the tools to be able to do that, which other disciplines don't have.
This is the first industry that I, you know, and I fell into it, but it's the first one that I saw, you know, immediately it would have massive scope, or an ability to give you massive scope. And so no matter what you wanted to be involved in, or how you could through the platform that is SEO. I think that's really interesting, and, you know, considering that it's basically exclusively business for me right now, I am excited to stay in the industry so that maybe it can transfer into, you know, something a little bit grander at some point in time.
So Eric, do you have any ideas as far as, you know, what we could do to do what you're saying, to try to kind of I don't know, get people woke, or whatever you want to call it?
In terms of how we run our own business, I kind of sneak things in, you know.
Sure.
So, for example, in my it's a health-oriented website. I address the issue of, you know, predatory drug companies, for example, or I try to. I think one of the main things that, you know, in our kind of daily discourse, whenever we're interacting with somebody, or on our website, if we can just put a little bit of, you know, do we really need to be spending 12 times the amount of money on our military that Russia does? And we're calling Russia the threat.
So you're planting little seeds, planting the seeds of cynicism, or.
No, it's not cynicism. It's
maybe that was a bad choice of word.
I mean, cynicism is the negative way of putting it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be cynical. It can simply be, why does Flint have dirty water? And we get, we don't pay for bombs. Why do we have to pay insurance premiums?
Sure.
They bail out the banks, but they don't bail out the homeowners.
Right.
It's something, maybe we should be thinking about stuff like that. And of course, you don't hit people over the head with it, because, it's people can get kind of overwhelmed, or they'll shut down or something like that. Yeah. But if you can, in the course of our sort of daily conversations, or in the course of how we conduct our business, there are probably little ways, tiny little ways that you can do that. And that's how things work in societies that have difficulties. There's a small group of people who understand what is actually going on, and it's like blades of grass creeping up through the concrete. You guys have been in China. You know what you understand Chinese philosophy. There's in the water when you're in a stream and there's lots of rocks, the water always finds a way through. When you're on a mountain top and there's a huge rock there, you find a tree that grew out of that rock. How did it do that? Because it found a little nook or cranny where it could sprout and grow life. And
actually, that was like one of the biggest things I took away from China. I can't even remember. I'm really bad at this stuff. But yeah, it was the idea of flowing water and basically not going against it. Like, you have to go with it to find the real opportunity, or something more advantageous to yourself, a better position, rather than basically trying to force something where you're fighting upstream.
Right. The concept of harmony in Chinese culture is very, very strong. So their whole idea is that you cooperate with things and you make them, yes, you can turn them your way, but not by force.
Yeah, not by brute force.
Right, that's the difference.
By being a little bit more slippery and adaptive, I guess.
Right, slippery is kind of got a negative tone to it.
I'm saying a bunch of negative stuff.
Bring in the natural language.
It's like if you're in a wrestling match, right? You just lube up with Vaseline all over your body. Then you're a slippery guy, and they can't.
Right.
But yeah, no negativity towards.
I think it's pretty cool. I'm trying to remember the documentary I watched recently, but it had something to do with the political revolution somewhere or other. And I remember a quote being that this person didn't think that any future revolutions would be anything grand, but they were these small kind of microcosms that we create by doing, the little things, these little inflections that then become far grander. Because they sort of steer waves of thought, and I think that's really cool. And I think it's nice that as SEOs we have the power to consider. Let's say you have somebody else write your copy. Fine, you can still go put little bits and pieces here and there to to cater some sort of personality and change. I think that's an interesting observation.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Eric, this has been a little bit different from our other podcasts, but it's been extremely enjoyable.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of parting advice, parting words you'd like to give to anyone who may still be watching at this point?
Don't give up.
Even if it takes until you're 70 years old, right?
Well, hey, I started when I was what, 66.
Yeah, really. So, I mean, yeah, you've done really well. It's to me, your story is awe-inspiring. I think it's awesome, and I think it's gonna help a lot of viewers too, who maybe, if you speak to certain people I know in my family, it's like, well, I'm too old to figure out how that stuff works. Well, that's more a frame of mind than it is any sort of truth.
Right.
My dad's 66, and there's no way in hell.
Yes, I'm thinking the same thing.
Chance
they won't even watch our podcast.
Yeah, not a damn chance that I would get him to start making money online. Just not gonna happen. I've floated it to him a couple times to give him something to do in his retirement, but not happening.
No, there's some other things that this is kind of it's off topic, but it's not really. No, people should stay active. They should if get a bicycle.
Yeah, we were
know.
talking about exercising the other day.
Exercise, exercise. I'm kind of sloughing off lately, but I try to do push-ups is like my main exercise.
I mean, you look
So
incredibly fit and healthy. You're a very active person, I'm guessing, right?
right, I mean, today I had to go get my passport, so I hopped on my bicycle. Most
Mm-hmm.
people say, oh, we'll just get an Uber or hop in the
Mm-hmm.
car or whatever. I don't have a car. I haven't had a car since 2004. I have a bicycle,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and so that's the other thing is you combine um, you combine activities. So I'm getting exercise. I'm going where I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't depend on other people. You do as much as you can yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
do as much as you can yourself. Yes, I do outsource stuff, but I also try to do as
But you
much as
learn, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I can myself, and especially physically. This as I've said to one of my other one of my other internet marketing friends, nobody's going to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself, especially
Right.
in younger people who are not. If you're not eating properly, if you're eating junk food and you're not exercising, and you're sitting in front of your computer all day and you're
Mm-hmm.
not stretching and you're not doing any kind of stuff like that, you're basically cutting your life short.
Right.
So it hurts your state of mind, it hurts your productivity. So it's very important to take care of your whole life
Mm-hmm.
together. Don't compartmentalize your life.
Sure. Yeah, actually, that's kind of a mistake. Now that I'm back from China and I've been here back in the U.S., my life is a lot more compartmentalized. I'm driving my
Hmm.
car. I miss riding the bike. I was riding a bike every day in Shanghai, even
Mm.
if it was just to and from subway stations. But yeah, definitely being active is something huge for people who are working in front of the computer in their
Yeah.
home all day. You gotta get up and do something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, there must be, you can find an excuse. There's got to be, oh, I got to go to 7-Eleven to get something. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
fine. Either walk or take your bike. Don't
Mm-hmm.
take your car,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Stuff like this. Again, it's looking for the little things that you can do. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to make massive changes. Look for the little things you can do in your own life to help yourself, to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, there you
So
have it, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Arnow, be physical. Yeah, get some exercise. Get off your butt and don't give up.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on to the show, Eric. We've really appreciated it, and
hey, thanks for
really
inviting me.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Of
Yeah,
course.
same here.
Hope to have you again sometime.